The president has been doing several tours around the country. Lately, he's been in Ukambani. But before we get to Ukambani, a few questions as to what is happening on the front pages this morning about ODM at 20. Right. They've had this festivity in Coast. I don't know if they're still there, but we saw a couple of things being said by several leaders from Babu Owino, Sifuna, the Secretary General, Yala MP Winnie Odinga. Right. She looks like she's discrediting her uncle. I don't know what is being said by some pundits. What is your opinion on what is happening in ODM right now, especially considering what happened on the weekend?
By the way, this is not her uncle. Baba mkubwa.
Baba mkubwa. This is different from
mahali nimetoka tunamuita uncle.
No, uncle are your mother's brothers. Your father's brothers
ni baba mkubwa.
Ni baba mkubwa.
Her relationship with Baba Mkubwa. She seems to be saying something in terms of his leadership in the party.
I think it's interesting. All those fellows you've mentioned, a few others. I think they need political advice. All of them, without an exception. And it tells you the sort of nature of Kenyan politics, because you'd imagine that as a politician, somebody would understand what politics is about, what power is about, how power is accessed, why is accessed, the manner in which it's accessed, and so on. I think they're behaving as if ODM was a corporation, that does stringent rules and so on. ODM, as all political parties, is a vehicle to power. And now the person who was holding that particular vehicle is not there. So there's a vacuum. There's really a power vacuum, whether we like it or not.
Yes.
And the question is, who will grab it? So for me, it is it's purely power play. It is not anchor or no anchor and so on. And there's nothing about being shy about power. You actually grab power. It's never given to you in the first instance. If you look at all these individuals, Oburu, if you look at him, is basically a caretaker. Number one, he's not one of the most gifted politicians. He was defeated several times in my own constituency by a novice that comes from the smallest clan, Ochanda.
Okay.
Yeah, Ochanda comes from a clan that is less than 20%. Okay. And when he was being defeated, they had just inherited his father's position in Bondo. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
So he's not an extremely talented politician. Let us just say that. He's an Odinga, of course. And he's a safe pair of hands in terms of transition. He's a threat to nobody. That is why the daughter can castigate him. He's basically a threat to nobody. Of course, let's come to Winnie. Winnie sees herself as a heir to the Odinga legacy.
Is that so?
But then, yes, of the way she's been behaving.
Okay.
Because you'd be asking, whom does Winnie speak for? And who gives her the authority or the legitimacy to speak for? So from where I sit, she clearly wants to grab the mantle.
Okay.
She wants to grab the mantle.
Like you've said, power is grabbed.
Exactly.
You're not given.
Yeah. So she sees it as somebody who can inherit the Raila legacy. But by inheriting Raila legacy, I do not mean the ODM leadership. I don't think that is in a league, really. Okay. I mean to just be realistic. Of course, Oburu will never inherit it, despite the fact that he's sitting on the throne. He's just warming it.
Yes.
Then of course you have this at the leaders. You have Sifunas and the rest. These guys also made choices. One of the choices they made was to actually be leaders in Nairobi. And Nairobi is not broad-based. It's as simple as that. Nairobi is not broad-based. The president is very unpopular in Nairobi. There's nothing he can promise us. In fact, we don't even want roads. We just want good governance.
We'll get to the president in a minute.
And now, this is my issue. That there is no way you'll be sucked into broad-based things and actually be guaranteed of winning an election in Nairobi. And that's why you see them blowing hot and cold. You see Babu Owino giving up apparently his last speech before I don't know he goes where. Whether he'll be bold enough to go there or not, we don't know. We see people like Sifuna, very, very interestingly positioned. And the question is that, can he grab the party? And if he grabs the party, of course, he'll win Nairobi and he'll be a proper presidential candidate and so on. But he must get it out of broad-based. You see people like Orengo reminded that there was a time that they used to fight in the trenches. And maybe the legacy would be in the trenches. So what you're seeing is actually this one happened at the Tower Bubble. Yeah, so they need a Holy Spirit. From a Christianese, they need a Holy Spirit so that they can understand each other again. You know, in the Tower of Babel, nobody would understand each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the Holy Spirit came, people were speaking different tongues, but they understood each other.
Yeah.
So ODM needs a miracle so that they can understand each other. That miracle will not happen. It will not happen because, again, that's the nature of politics.
Professor, in this country, party leadership, the position of party leader looks or seems like it's an eternal position where the only time it will be vacant is when someone passes on. Raila Odinga passed on, left his open. Kalembe Ndile was the party leader of Tip Tip.
Yes, there was a party called Tip Tip.
Tip Tip, yeah.
Tip Tip, yes.
And up until he died, he was the party leader of
Yes,
Tip Tip.
correct.
PNU, I think, was President Kibaki's party.
Correct, there was a party.
When he left, someone else took over.
And it was a ruling party.
Exactly.
It wasn't just any other party.
And
Right.
we can go on and on. I think the
Correct.
only party I've seen that has got a successful transition is Safina Party, where Paul Mwite handed over the mantle
Correct.
to Jimmy Wanjigi.
To be fair, right.
Yeah, exactly. So when you say that Dr. Oburu is warming this seat for someone, who could this someone be? Again, considering this is an eternal position, correct me if I'm wrong, at what point will he vacate that seat?
Assuming that there'll be a party. He could just warm it, and after that there'll be an explosion and there'll be no party. We may end up with where we started, where we have ODM Kenya, ODM Nyanza, ODM Orange, ODM Yellow. I think ODM that will be associating with Ruto should already rebrand. In fact, after I leave studio, I'll go straight away and register the trademark ODM Yellow.
Okay.
Now the question is whether ODM would hold. I think that ODM cannot hold. That's my position. ODM was being held not... They talk about ideology and ideas and so on. We know, yes, ODM, regardless of the way you look at it, it was still a reactionary thing. Right from the start, because the banana versus the chungwa was there basically, I mean, it was basically an opposition to a position that had been put. To be fair to them, they were advocating for devolution then, and they've sort of kept that. But we've not seen strong ideologies and so on that we can say that no. If this guy is in ODM, this is what they actually stand for. So what is this magic that's going to hold ODM? Okay. On the other hand, people are raiding ODM, of course. The president is already there doing his fishing. In fact, he remembered suddenly that he was an ODM founder member.
Yes.
And they're all parading. They are lot politicians,
We saw him in ODM regalia.
In ODM regalia.
Yeah.
And you're ruling using the other banana party. The yellow one is
wheelbarrow.
Wheelbarrow, yes. Yeah, I saw this nice wheelbarrow carrying oranges. Yeah. That's the new thing. Yeah. So ODM is going to be raided, and in fact, there's another group that we didn't talk to about. That's the Mbadis of this world. That's the Johos of this world. The guys inside, they're Tandis and stuff. The pure Ndais and stuff. These are typical Kenyans who've never had any serious ambition or any serious things to build, but to benefit from the largesse of state, and they would like to keep that for as long as they can. So already, in fact, the seeds of destruction is already sowed inside of ODM. Those fellows are not going to run away anytime. They're staying with UDA. For them, and Winnie was the one castigating them. For them, Ruto must go for 2 terms because you want to lengthen your eating period as much as you can. And yeah, so basically, the way I look at it is that ODM is in big trouble from within and even from without in their own territories.
Right.
There are many guys I've talked to who are actually very comfortable now that Baba is gone. Why? Because some of these guys were very strong politicians.
Yes.
And because they were not seen to be Baba's cows, they were sort of literally pushed out of politics. I can talk about people like Tuju, who was again has warmed up. We don't know what he'll actually be going for. The people like Engineer Gumbo, who ran against Orengo last time. And there are many such fellows in Nyanza.
Yep.
Some of them are even in ODM, including Ochanda, Gideon, the MP for Bondo, who keeps getting his ticket last minute, despite of course always winning those nominations, and is always at loggerhead with ODM leadership, because we're not seen to be direct followers of Raila, as it were.
Yeah.
And some of those are pretty strong politicians. We have the MDG people in game area and so on, and they have a new leash of life. They feel like now these guys are beatable. They feel ODM candidates are beatable. They're not bothered about them. In fact, I see a lot of them already, the ones who are in ODM, leaving ODM to go, to some of these fringe parties and fight from there.
Yeah.
So the way we look at it, the assault that ODM will be getting shortly, mind you, they're not even likely to have a presidential candidate. That will even weaken them further in terms of a galvanizing force around which they can actually rally, their ideas. So ODM is actually going to be, even if it remains as a party, it will shrink quite considerably. It will shrink quite considerably.
Right. Someone mentioned, actually sat on that chair and said perhaps President Ruto right now would be safe in terms of the future and securing his future rather for a second term if he gave Winnie Odinga a position in cabinet.
I think that is very stupid. It is. It is extremely stupid. The thing is that I think, you see, because Raila was big, and the Odingas have been big, it is extremely stupid to imagine that because the two are big, there must be a big Odinga. These dynasties come to an end.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And the Odinga dynasty has actually come to an end. I can say that on air without any fear of contradiction. The Odinga dynasty has come to an end. It has not fallen as dramatically as other dynasties, because there are people who are, who are in different positions and so on.
Yeah.
Let's look at Raila. Raila was not a beneficiary of the Odinga largesse. Raila was a bona fide fighter in his own right. He was a member of parliament elected on his own merit. In fact, they were serving in the same parliament with his father, and he came from a tougher place. Nairobi is no joke. Odinga came from a rural constituency and so on. So Raila basically earned his feathers. Let's look at these other Odingas. If you remove the Odinga name, there'll be nothing to them. So I think Ruto would have totally wasted an opportunity by simply picking an Odinga and making them the deputy, because I don't think that will even translate to significant votes in Nyanza. That would be defeatist. I think and the reason I agree with the sort of thinking that Oburu has, I think they'll be better off broadening their engagement with the Ruto government. In fact, for me, I think it's Chiragai or somebody who told them that they should forget about the presidency and the deputy presidency. I think that's the best thing that ODM should do, really, because what it would mean is that they can go and then now negotiate for a number of positions that are not a threat to particular individuals. They'll end up with ministers here and there. They may end up with an attorney general. They end up with all these guys within government that somehow those fellows might be able to keep the party running. But if Ruto makes a mistake of picking one Odinga and putting them in a pole position to the exclusion of a significant number within ODM, he won't have done himself any justice.
There's something that happened a few days ago. Dr. Ivan Skidero had a case, about 213 million charges against him. They were dropped.
Correct.
Could that be a harbinger towards his political metamorphosis rather, to probably get back into politics?
Yes, because we know Dr. Kidero. We know his public life. We know his successful run in Nairobi. We know his failed run in Homa Bay. That's one of the most colorless politicians in this country, honestly. If it was not for the money that he had, I think this guy cannot even qualify to be an MCA. To be, whether his case is dropped or not. I know he wants to be in politics for whatever reason. He's not a talented politician. He's not a good governor or even manager of public affairs. He's shown that. We asked Dr. Kidero on air with what he had done in Nairobi, and he couldn't remember. What sort of politician is that? Our president remembers even things that he will never do.
Well, he closed several roundabouts. The Westlands one, and I'm forgetting the
one here, right near your studio here, and caused a lot of problems. Caused a lot of problems.
The regular politics that we have that actually suits our rural areas. What roads do you want to build in Nairobi?
Exactly.
I'm just saying he closed.
No,
I'm
saying
he caused problems.
The discussion
and it's still closed.
The discussion about Nairobi or any major city has to be completely different from any discussion you have.
You know,
with this rural population that you have.
and you know, it's interesting that you're bringing that. Of course, Kidero failed totally to engage in that politics. If anything, I think one of the politicians who tried to do a little bit of this was Raila. And then earlier on, if you get into history, people like Mboya. Yeah, you see, because number one, Nairobi is very cosmopolitan.
Yes.
So if you're looking at issues around citizenship and citizen issues and citizen rights and so on, you know, you'll find that Nairobi would gravitate more towards a rights-based politician, if you can look at it that way, who goes slightly beyond basics. You know, of course, those basics must be provided, but then I want a thinking politician. I want a politician who can govern. I want a politician, you know, who puts systems in place. I want a politician, you know, who actually can ensure that there's justice within the city and so on.
Okay.
And that's partly why I think a lot of these politicians just fall off. And that's partly also why politicians like Sifuna and Babu are attractive in Nairobi. Because I'm not too bothered about whether Babu fixed a tap in my place. But I listen to him as a citizen of the country and saying, fine, some injustices have happened. What position is this particular politician taking?
Okay.
That's the Nairobi electorate. The Nairobi electorate is a slightly more sophisticated electorate. We expect roads and which are functioning, not even as the role of the politician. That is a basic we expect in the city, regardless of who's running the city. We expect, you know, to have the basic facilities and so on. Because anyway, I mean, all the national resources have been concentrated here, and that's not just Nairobi. It's the nature of big cities around the world. That's why New York can pick Hamdani. And what is he talking about? Is he talking about building new highways and building new whatever? No, the guy is talking about the way. He's talking about immigrant issues. He's talking about human rights.
Taxation.
He's talking about taxation. He's talking about fidelity.
Making New York affordable for those who live there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So
social issues.
The Nairobi politician, unfortunately, the Nairobi politics and politician is radically different from the national politics and politics.
Of all the governors we've had in Nairobi, including that of Kananu, and I think in collaboration with General, was it Abdi Mohammed?
Yes.
One of those.
Badi. He was called General Badi.
Thank you.
Please. Not Mbadi.
Badi.
This is for your sake.
B-A-D.
Yes.
Asante.
Like
apart from, I mean, including that particular time in history,
right?
Do we have a governor or governors who've actually delivered anything whatsoever?
No.
The answer is just no. But I'm not saying Nairobi is the easiest county to deliver for, and Nairobi is also the toughest county to deliver for. You know, I always give an example of Kisumu Governor Nyong'o. A lot of things have happened in Kisumu. But then if you look at what Nyong'o has actually done, he's just done politics and good governance, really. There's nothing much that is done. People perceive Kisumu to be a relatively well-run, whatever, city, regardless of what that means. You know, people do their work. You know, there's nothing outstanding that Nyong'o is doing there. But Kisumu people are sort of happy with him. Why? Because the expectation of Kisumu people, almost
is
like
low.
Nairobi, it's not just low. They don't expect things to be done for them.
Okay.
They expect institutions that are running. They expect that if I go to pay my bills, you know, that is done efficiently. They expect that if somebody was given a task to sweep outside there, is clean. You know, whether there's a new road or there's no new road. They expect that there'll be no scandals and people stealing. In fact, that's why Abala Wanga's story is like the guy's goose is cooked. You know, but Nairobi has never had such a. In fact, this guy, Miguna.
Yes.
Miguna said it, and we took it for granted. Miguna said Nairobi needs a leader.
Yes.
We need a leader where you can sit and say, that is my governor. You know, this guy is thinking about the future of the city. He's thinking how the city is governed, you know, ensures that, you know, there's no nonsense. If you sit in those offices, you don't do your work, you go away. It's as simple as that.
But you know, also, someone, if we were to talk specifics about governors, someone like Nyong'o has one benefit. Kisumu is the headquarters of that region.
Correct.
When you talk about conferences, whether it is the East African Enclave and the various conferences that are around it, if you're talking about a seafront that is second to Mombasa,
right?
If you're talking to bringing public service like the Navy, something which should have been done decades ago, being done now.
Exactly.
If you talk about just the growth of a city, you see, you point to something very interesting. Given the neglect that that particular region suffered for that long, again, expectations
are very low.
Yes,
that is true.
So anything that moves and benefits.
Right.
See, I fault that government for one thing. There is no county in that region that is as industrialized as Kisumu.
Yeah, that is
predominantly sugar cane industries.
Correct. True.
Now, if those factories were actually revived to the standard that are required,
correct,
that would be an extremely rich county.
No, it's not just sugar cane. Myself, and we discussed that with Nyongo. You see, another interesting thing.
I'm starting with sugar cane because it is a low-hanging fruit.
This is even a low-hanging fruit. The example I'm going to give you, CT.
Yes.
When Nyongo was taking over,
yes,
we had 20 fish factories.
Yes, we did
in Kisumu.
Yes,
that were exporting fish to Europe. Then in between there, we had COVID and all the other things, and
business went down.
And business went down, and then of course, as part of the revival, the then president decided to do fish ponds everywhere, and what was interesting was that all Kisumu's fish is actually exported, even now, is exported through JKI.
Yes.
And none of those guys in factories, in Kisumu, the ones running the factories, own cooling plants in JKI. All the cooling plants in JKI are owned by middlemen.
Yes.
Who then decided to get the fish from the ponds. And actually, as we are talking, there is no fish processor in Kisumu. They closed. It just became too expensive for them. So
the stimulus program that introduced fish farming
exactly
essentially killed that particular industry.
And look at our neighbors. And I always use that example. That's Mwanza. If you land in Kisumu airport for a small region, you're like, wow, nice place, very, very sort of elaborate. You look at the cargo section. Do you know the cargo section?
Is there a cargo section?
There isn't. It doesn't exist.
Because I was going to ask you, where exactly is it situated?
There is no cargo section at all. Go to Mwanza. The main airport is a small section of Kisumu airport. The bigger airport is the cargo section. And they take fish there directly to Europe. You find fishermen in Mwanza driving Ferraris because the value chain is very efficient. For us, you have these middlemen who don't even like fish. The fish comes here, they bless it, they get all the money. There's a processor down in Kisumu there that doesn't fish and so on. In Mwanza, thanks to whatever, it is the same guys. It's the same guys that form themselves into cooperatives. They do the fish processing by the lake. It doesn't go anywhere. And from there it goes to the airport and is in Europe. 8 hours. You got fresh fish in Europe. So I agree with you 100% that as a governor, we would have expected Nyongo to pick some of those low-hanging fruits and run with them.
You see, my issue, in fact, you're the one who raised this issue and sparked the thinking. When expectations are low, you are content with very little progress.
Exactly.
Instead of understanding the entirety of the potential that actually exists and what could have been done, much more that could have been done.
And that's what we call leadership too. That's exactly what we call leadership too. Not this inferiority complex of we used to be at the same level as Singapore. That stupidity must stop. In fact, I think we should pass a law in Kenya that if you say we used to be at the same level as Singapore, you should be locked.
You're arrested.
What we should be saying is that CT Omenya, you guys, what potential do we have, and what can we be able to achieve?
Okay.
And we proceed and achieve it, regardless of what Singapore is doing.
We were discussing this in the earlier hour, and I was talking to Paul here and telling him about an article that was written by a gentleman called Wycliffe Muga, in the Star.
Right.
And his thesis is this.
Right.
He says we should not emulate Singapore.
Yeah.
We should emulate Iceland. And this is what he says. When you look at the geothermal power that we have, Iceland has the same.
Yes.
Geothermal power is cheap.
Right.
Cheap in terms of just
exactly
running it.
You don't need
and he gives examples of the turbines we have in Olkaria, 35 years old, minimum maintenance
They're still running.
until
Correct.
exactly. And he says they smelt aluminium and other minerals where in Iceland. So the industrialists come to Iceland because power is cheap. Now, instead of worrying about these things, we've only explored 10% of our potential. If we explode more, we'd have cheaper, people would come to do business. Because we would have the one resource they need for whatever industries they have. Now, what you also said, which makes sense, is the need to have people in leadership. You mentioned Nairobi, yes, but who are thinkers? There's a young man from Mandera called Abdullahi Alas. This is something he always says. He says, we don't have enough thinkers in this country. He says, forget the leadership. If there's a leader and calls himself a leader and doesn't think, we are doomed. So people who...
But CT,
yes.
I agree with you at all levels. I want to tell people, once you get into particular position of leadership, especially higher positions of leadership, the first thing you're called to do is strategy, which is thinking. And then the next layer is planning. Then at the lowest level is doing
the implementation.
Now the implementation. Now we have guys vigorously implementing stupid ideas. Just doing things and imagine that by doing very many things we are going to get far. And that's why we're in trouble. We are busy. We have our leaders running around like headless chicken. Oh, we're building this road. If you ask, why are you doing it? Sometimes the thing you're doing might even harm you. This is in fact, and it's everywhere. You can imagine, even in universities, we have people doing things, building hostels. These are places for thinkers, for goodness sake. You should be telling us how the thinking that you're producing is going to transform this country and the world shortly.
We had a conversation around research in universities. But Professor, I want us to again come back and talk about you've just said roads. The president has been in Ukambani lately, making sure the airport is being done, the airstrip in Kitui rather, and then several roads have been done within the 3 counties of Ukambani. He's clearly trying to woo these people. He's campaigning in Ukambani.
Very, very true.
Should Kalonzo and team be worried?
No. Kalonzo and team should not be worried about the roads. They should be worried about the president. Because I always say, I get worried about the president. The thing is, the president has demonstrated before that he knows how to win elections. You see, whether it's by fraud, whether it's by creating a narrative, whatever it is, he knows how to win elections. And to me, that's more troublesome. Because, somebody who knows how to win elections and can win using any tactic, to me, is more worrisome than an honest doer of things who hopes that by the things that he does, by his actions, then people would actually vote him. I was quite fascinated by one statistic that the president put on the table. He talked about 360 kilometers of roads that they were building.
Where from where to where?
In
Ukambani.
In the 3 counties. And I was like, you can't be serious. That's almost roads across the entire country. Because from Mombasa all the way to Western is about 400. It's 400 something.
From
kilometers. Mombasa
to Nairobi
is 498.
Is close to 500.
It's close to 500.
From Nairobi to Kisumu is another 300 kilometers or so. So that's 800 kilometers. Now, those are long distances. So when you talk about 360 kilometers
ongoing
in Ukambani.
From Nairobi to Kitui, because I come from Kitui, it's about 160 kilometers.
There you go. So basically, the roads that he's talking about is
roads within Ukambani.
Yes, within Ukambani. Now you can imagine that. That's 160. So you can imagine like 3 times that. Just inside there, work that's ongoing. I've been to Ukambani. I've got clients there. There's some road works going on, of course. But surely it is not 360. But my point is that the president is such a savvy politician. He knows he thrives on political narratives. He knows that those narratives don't have to be true for people to whatever. And to me, that's a bigger concern. And it reflects the whole thing. Now the president has positioned himself quite quickly as the ODM founder. And you say, but you're no longer in ODM. You're running a rival party. Are you celebrating And of course, and it's built the narrative quite quickly to say ODM must be in government,
yes,
or must form government.
Yes.
I mean, I'm fighting you, and you're telling me, Alfred, you must win.
But who exactly is fighting him in ODM? Is it the whole ODM?
Nobody's fighting him. What I'm saying here is that, the president is a master of narratives.
Okay.
So and some of those narratives then get believed. He'll keep saying this. The next time he goes to Nyanza, people will be looking at him as a member of ODM, while in truth he's not at all. And to me, that's a bigger concern. That when he gets into Ukambani there, the big thing that he's saying is that look here, guys. I mean, I'm doing all the projects here, and he'll be saying, and he'll be dropping numbers, and until a point when it's actually believed. He did that same narrative with Central Kenya to the extent that, in fact, they stopped believing their own people and so on. He did that with hustlers. He no longer talks about hustlers anymore. Until every young person, I had a quarrel with my baba. I had a quarrel because I couldn't speak. This guy said, look here, I mean, we have a savior. And the president knows that, and he uses it quite powerfully. I think the other person who tries it a little bit is maybe his former deputy.
Rigiji.
Yeah, exactly. But you look at Kalonzo. Of course, as a politician, Kalonzo, for example, Rigiji comes and declares Kalonzo cousin.
All right.
And what has Kalonzo done with it? You saw when Kalonzo took the 100 cows in Nyanza. There was quite some excitement, but what has he done with it? So for me, that is where the issue is. That this distinction between politicians, they will criticize the president in terms of what the president has done and what the president hasn't done. The president is not interested. The president is looking at politics and politicking and actually just influencing people, using his words and roaming around.
Do you think he'll be able to influence Ukambani just because he has gone there and built a road here and there and done whatever he has done, a few empowerment programs here and there? Do you think that's enough to actually get that Ukambani vote that he really wants?
No, he will not get the Ukambani vote. But that is not his interest.
Okay.
That is not his interest. The thing is that currently, immediately removed Raila, we basically, those tribal kingpins, let's just call them what they are.
For sure.
Yeah. We basically have 3 kingpins currently. 2.5 kingpins. The president is a kingpin. We know Kalenjins will vote him. They are normally very quiet, but they'll vote him regardless. And Kalonzo is a kingpin, and he's proven it. He's solid with Ukambani. It doesn't matter what the noises the president makes.
Okay.
Wiper will still carry Ukambani. Wiper had carried Ukambani in less in less stressful times. So I don't really see the president making such huge inroads into Ukambani, and especially if Kalonzo is running for president, I don't see that that actually happening. The other one, of course, is that I was saying 2.5 is Gachagua.
Or he's a half a kingpin.
He's half a kingpin. Nobody will not be running.
Yeah.
In that place, we have the king with no throne, Uhuru Kenyatta, and we have people pulling in all sorts of different directions. And to me, I think, and the president has done it. I don't know why he's not doing more of that. The one thing I liked about the hustler narrative was that really it was the first time that somebody was going outside of the tribal space to craft something else. And I think Kalonzo is a pretty amiable politician. He's been at high levels and so on. You could see even when he went to Nyanza, he had some genuine supporters who felt that this guy can actually be president.
Yeah.
But the issue is that the Kenyan politician, the thinking we're talking about, the Kenyan politician is notoriously lazy upstairs. Because honestly, you must ask yourself, who are these guys who are disgruntled about Ruto's regime? The guys who are disgruntled about Ruto's regime is not a tribe in the traditional sense. It's the Gen Zs. These are fellows who are killed on the streets, who are agitating for something. It is a middle class whose payroll was, has been eroded. That kind of whatever. And these fellows is the hustlers who are actually abandoned, by the whatever. And it requires just a little bit of thinking to be able to harness these constituencies. And then you can add them to your tribal constituency. Your tribesmen will always be there, and they will even like you more when you're talking about these sophisticated things and so on. And I was saying that the current state of Kenyan politician is totally unimaginative. In fact, none of those guys, including the ones running for presidency, is even qualified to be our MCA here in Nairobi, because we're talking about higher level issues. We're talking about our pay slips. We're talking about not just jobs for youths, but actually youth rights being looked at.
Prof,
and this discourse is there. There's a huge opportunity there. The president had actually used it in the past. Kalonzo just need to pick it and then add a little bit of these thoughts around it and run with it.
Actually, you're right, Prof, because the things that the president raised when he was campaigning in 2022 were actually serious governance issues.
Exactly.
If you're talking about unemployment, essentially somebody has been trained and cannot get something to do. It's a governance issue.
It's a governance issue.
Somebody is unwell and they cannot get treatment in hospital. It's a governance issue.
Correct.
Parents have children who need to go to school. They don't have money to pay because school is expensive. It's a governance issue.
In fact, they even talk about government capture.
Yes.
The state capture.
That's what they spoke of.
Core governance issues.
He actually touched on his campaign strategy. Touched on things that were core.
Exactly.
Just look at the charters they signed. This is the first time in our history where somebody has documented a social contract with the citizen. Documented. So you just go to go and say, Chief, you said this,
correct,
and you're the one who signed off on it. Now, you take it a step further. You've heard me castigating the so-called united opposition. I'm asking, what do you have to offer?
You can just unite against somebody.
I mean, precisely. We have issues that need tackling.
Correct.
But the person who is carrying the conversation is actually the president.
Exactly.
And you are letting him.
Cause of the problem.
Yes, and you are letting him carry that conversation. Because all you're doing is opposing. Now, I had a discussion with a politician who told me something very interesting. He said, I was looking at the Nyanza. He said specifically the Nyanza region.
Right.
He said, have you ever heard of the Riviera? I said, I have.
Yes.
I said, actually, if you want to understand the Riviera, don't go to the Mediterranean. Just go to Cape Town.
Correct.
The Cape area. My friend, if somebody dropped you there,
you wouldn't know
you would not completely.
Actually,
I went
better than Europe.
Oh yes. I went to certain sections where, first of all, it's full of vineyards and what have you. There's a rail that actually runs from the town and out of it.
Correct.
And I asked, what's this rail for? He said, well, the people who work here come in the morning with this rail.
Correct.
And then they leave.
Correct.
It's an almost predominantly white enclave. Believe me, what you find there, when I say for me it was mind-boggling.
Yes.
I could see what the pictures I've seen of the Riviera because I've never been there. Now this person was telling me, do you know what we can do with that lake region? Said, do you have any idea what we can do? Said, forget this tourist attraction that people talk of Mombasa.
Correct.
Said, Lake Victoria. He said, think of anything and everything you've imagined.
And it's fresh water. That Riviera you're talking about is salty water that you can't use for anything.
Exactly. He said, the things you can do with that lake. Something that simple. He said, it is an economic source that nobody has even begun to tap. Begun. Okay?
That's true.
Then he also told me, centrally speaking, if you're talking about East and Central Africa, Kisumu is by far the most central place you can think of.
It is.
All these industries that are, whether they're in Thika or where, said they should be in the Kisumu area. He said, that way you've got the entirety of East and Central Africa.
Correct.
And that would be an easier place to do business.
Correct.
Sudan is around.
Even from a logistic point of view, correct.
All these places are not far from Kisumu. He said, now, do you hear of people talking about those things?
No.
I said, no, I don't. He said, now you see, this is where our problem begins. The politician has determined to keep the Kenyan mind on these fundamentals that we've been talking about since independence.
Correct.
And the mind doesn't go. And those who think along these lines are not courageous enough to continuously speak about them.
Exactly.
Even if you're not being listened to, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Just keep speaking.
Because those issues then get into the public.
Exactly. And he gave the example and said, people will appreciate Raila when he's not there. Raila was alive when he was telling me this. He said, asked him why. He said, do you know this man broke the mold? He is the one politician who, when he disagreed with a certain position, he moved.
Yes.
He wasn't going to sit there and he just said,
Correct.
you keep it,
Correct.
I'm going on. And he said, do you know what happened? The people followed him.
Correct.
It wasn't immediate,
Correct.
but they did. Then he said, the mold was harder to break.
Yeah.
According to this politician, he was saying, the person who had been molded to take over was Oburu, not Raila.
Yes. True.
So Raila broke the mold even with his own father.
Yeah.
He said, but look at where it has taken him. He said, again, we do not know of any leader on this planet, this is according to this politician, who gets more popular with every election he loses.
That's an interesting one. Yeah, that is true.
So it's never happened.
Yeah.
Now, the enormity of it, the enormity of it hit me when Raila Odinga passed away. Because I looked at the way the country mourned and is still mourning, and I said, what? So what that fellow was telling me was he had seen something that I had not seen.
Correct.
Because even as we speak now, the influence of this man who passed away, in fact, is even more potent than he was before. He's still the center of the discussion of the at the party.
Correct.
He's still the center of discussion
in the country.
Yes, he is.
Exactly.
And the person has passed away.
Correct.
I mean, I was watching again several videos on the internet, and everyone, you could tell they were talking about the fact that it's been a month since former Prime Minister passed on.
Right.
But people are still making trips to his gravesite.
Correct.
And then he mentioned President Kenyatta, sorry, not Kenyatta, but President Moi. And he said, the guy passed on, we buried.
Correct.
And literally after the sunset, it's like we forgot about him. Same to President Kibaki. After the sunset, we forgot about him. So here we are looking at a person who a month later, people are still making pilgrimage to his grave. So we can tell that indeed he is someone who had a great influence over the politics.
But you see, the question is, why do you think that person was that influential? Because like every normal human being, he had huge flaws.
No. But you see, what I want to tell people, the interesting thing with death is a purifying moment in somebody's life. I think it's just like our students. If I can use that example. A student who gets, you're outside there, you get an A of 80s or 70s or whatever it is. We castigate you. We are like, why didn't you get this 20%? How could you fail such a simple question, and so on? But when it reaches that terminal moment when you no longer be available for us, we sit there and we say, oh no, CT has scored the highest aggregate ever in this institution. You can't be serious. Yeah, CT is doing 90%. And that's now when we celebrate you. And to me, that is the Raila bit. I mean, if you look at him across time, I don't think that the politicians would tick those boxes. Raila was proven to fight for the poor. Raila fought actually for the multi-party democracy and was locked up there. In fact, of the recent detainees, he's the one who spent most time in detention, the post-independence ones.
Actually, no, Wasonga Sijeo spent more time than him by a few years.
Yes.
But he was by far one of the longest serving.
Exactly.
Yes.
One of the longest serving detainees.
Yes.
And then, of course, Raila comes in and starts fighting the single-party rule. Until, of course, we got somewhere. Then we get into the banana and oranges. And we know, I mean, there was a group that didn't want change at all, and they were talking about centralization. And we know Raila became the face of that devolution, regardless of where the idea came from. In fact, he was a leader. He would pick these really, really powerful ideas and then proceed to actually run with them. Raila spent all his time, in fact, the Chief Justice said it, he spent all his time pushing jurisprudence in this country. And that's, I was telling people that's one of the weak things in this country, that there are very many things that are questionable in law. But Kenyans are not litigious, generally. We let government get away with murder. But Raila did spend a lot of time, doing that and working with the opposition and so on. So it's when he passed on that people realized that no, this guy was not just an average politician. He's a politician who basically was pursuing these greater roles, and sometimes even punching way above his weight. In fact, as as I wind up that thought,
Right.
somebody said that, I know because we're talking about ODM, they're saying the only politician in this country capable of holding together the contradiction that was ODM was Raila.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, here is a guy who is actually opposed to a lot of things the government is doing, then is in government, his party is taking all these different positions, and is able to actually hold it together. Yeah, so definitely was a special politician. He was a great leader in his own right. He could build these bigger visions.
Right.
Yeah, and I think they worked very well with Kibaki because Kibaki, I think Kibaki was a planner. Just like I was saying, you need a visionary, who can develop these bigger strategies. And then you need a planner who can pick those visions and translate them into some grand plans. Then at the third tier, you need doers who can implement those plans. Currently, what we have are doers who basically just have money,
yes,
our taxes, and are running around. So we have neither. And I think that's why, despite the challenges, the Grand Coalition government was very interesting.
Yeah.
Because at least it had some visionaries, and then it had planners. Yeah, the current ones, you can't say that these guys are planning. You can't say that these fellows are thinking. You can't say, I met the president myself, and I told him exactly the same thing. That there was a time that this country, you could see the vision for the first time. There are things that people take for granted. For the first time, Kenya had a national spatial plan that spoke to every single part of this country, including rural areas and the parks where the animals are, and the cities. And just like City was saying here, that enabled us to think that how did this country develop, and why did it develop the way it developed? The country developed because the Mzungu put the rail to extract resources from Uganda. And everything that developed in this country, from Mombasa to Voi, to Machakos, to Nairobi itself, all the way to Kisumu, to Eldoret, it was that rail. It is a no-brainer that if a rail that was meant to extract from Uganda could create that development for 100 years, what about another rail to Southern Sudan that goes to Cameroon and West Africa?
So you're saying that our leaders need to think like colonizers?
Exactly. Not really. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
We have to think beyond.
The colonizers had a vision.
Yeah.
They had a vision. And we're seeing the impact of that vision.
Yes.
So saying, why can't we put alternative visions in place? As City is saying, why can't we look at the entire lake and say, okay, fine, what can we do with this lake? One of the things I've been telling them through and through and through and through, colonial infrastructure was to extract resources. If you're going to do another type, if you're going to do infrastructure in this time and age, what should be the driving force of that infrastructure? It can't be extraction of resources. It is actually that infrastructure must be an economic infrastructure, that develops regions, that actually attracts resources as it actually were. So we don't do lapset because we want to steal oil and take it to Europe. We do lapset now as an end, as a destination. We were saying, look here, we can reorganize the population of this country. These can become spaces of production, and so on. Yes, we'll be bringing in resources. In fact, we reverse it, and this becomes now a manufacturing hub for the continent. We are saying, okay, fine, Kenya, we're 50-something million, 60-something million. By the time we hit, 100 million, where will these people be staying? And we're saying, no, they should not stay in the southern corridor. Let's take them to the northern corridor, and what will be happening in that corridor in terms of agriculture, in terms of food security, in terms of technology, in terms of AI, in terms of all these sort of different things. Currently, we don't have any visionary thinker. We have petty doers who come to open a tap and to open some little road that goes nowhere. The reason why Christianity thrives today is because its founder creates such a compelling vision that is still relevant 2,000 years later.
Heaven.
Exactly. So that's what leaders are called to do. You have to create this compelling vision that can rally your people for quite some time, and then you break it down to something that's doable, so that we have a reason to wake up. And rightly so, they say, leadership is actually you're a purveyor of hope. You must become a believer yourself. But then, of course, you break this thing into into implementable sections and so on, so that your vision doesn't just become empty. When people see cities coming up, when people see Lamu port being done, and you're saying, no, the logistics here, we are going to have the best deep sea port in the whole continent, and people can actually see it. And you build, and you don't need to finish it. Great leaders build over centuries. Actually, that's how the old civilizations
they
were done.
set the foundation on which
foundation.
Yes, because
The blueprint we've been talking about.
Correct.
Precisely, because if you look at China, the person who began what you're seeing was called Deng.
Yes, correct.
Na sahi Xi Jinping anaendelea nayo.
Aliwacha. But you see, they had a structure
Exactly.
for it.
Correct.
All right?
Correct.
And because of that structure, you are assured of continuity.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
And there's a collectivism in the way they make decisions and choose leaders that mirrors a very good way of public participation.
Exactly.
Because the party that they have is at the very, very grassroots.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
Now, we, unfortunately, have a fundamental problem.
And it identifies talent.
To me, your
It
microphone.
does.
To me, your microphone.
Yeah.
I told you. Yeah.
But continue, carry on.
You see, when you look at those who would wish to oppose a sitting president,
Right.
they are disappointing. Because the opposition presents an opportunity for you to introduce something which is more potent than what this president
Exactly.
used to actually gain power.
Correct.
And you don't need to invent anything.
Yes.
Take the very methods that he used.
Correct. Exactly.
That same
Correct.
vision, okay? Then twist it to serve your purpose.
Exactly.
You know, when you're talking about the voting, say for instance, in a place like Ukambani,
Yes.
and we talk about the real politics of Kenya, he cannot shift the majority of voters in that region to his side.
Yeah.
But that's not what he needs.
Correct.
When you have rallies that are attended by people, whether you ferret them or not,
Correct.
it opens the window for rigging.
Exactly.
Because, and you do not need to rig by a huge margin.
Correct.
You just need to get somebody who understands how to figure these things
How
out.
the thing works. Yeah.
And over time,
Correct.
just give you those small increments along
Exactly.
the way,
Exactly.
and you just keep building them up.
Exactly.
That has been the bane of our existence when it comes to our elections.
Yeah.
That is why a closely contested election, the margin is something that is believable.
Yes.
You say, actually, yeah.
This guy will.
Yeah, it's possible.
The number of things.
Yeah,
that he
These
collected.
people, exactly. Yeah, and these other people didn't quite all vote.
Exactly.
There are narratives you can create to justify the position.
Exactly.
Not like the 97% that somebody across the border. That is a bit tricky. But you see, in the morning I was telling Paul, what I find lacking in all these conversations is how the citizenry will benefit from all these things that they're doing.
Right.
It is completely lacking. It is how it is what someone is not doing.
Yeah.
Is what they hope to do, and you say, okay.
But you see, CT, and to me, those are the concerns that I have.
Yes.
Yeah, because and that's why I was saying that people who speak about Singapore should be prosecuted. No, you see, because we have our situation here.
Yes.
We have our situation, and I would expect a responsible leader to look at that situation, not just negatively, to look at that situation and say, fine, what do we really have? What is the bare minimum? What must we protect at all costs? Of what we have, leave alone what additional things we'll do. Then after that, we start looking at what else will we do and why. One of the things that this country is known for, this country is known for its human resource.
Yes, it is.
Myself, one of my reasons for shifting back to Kenya here was just that I couldn't find the human resource that I needed to do my consulting in South Africa. I could not.
So you have to come back home.
You come here and the guys are just on the street. You can employ 100 if you want. So Kenya has generally had a relatively good human resource, human capital. And how has that happened? It is something that has happened for a very long time. In fact, somebody was telling me that, what do you mean? This guy was a chief in 1901 under a Christian name. Like, believe it or not, and he wrote a letter to the colonial government protesting some activities of the colonialists in his area. Because basically what happened, and it was not necessarily the most positive, but what happened was that when the colonialists came, they came with religion and education. And people then got educated, and we take this thing for granted. Our education has been solid, and you find Kenyans everywhere.
Yes,
because we are educated.
Prof.
Now, to illustrate my point,
10 seconds, we're out of time.
What are we doing with our education? What are we actually doing with our education?
Good question.
We are messing it up.